right, welcome everyone. It's great to see all the smiling faces out there. My name is Karen Davis, and I am the Communications Director for the Camera Club of Richmond. This is our May 2021 monthly meeting, and we have an evaluation this evening. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, but we're getting started with our Zoom meeting, and we will start out with just a few club announcements, and then hopefully we'll go right on into our evaluation. One thing about the evaluation tonight, it is what we call an assigned subject. So the folks who have entered images will have been able to enter 2 images. One can be anything they want, and the second, if they choose to enter a second image, that has to be the theme of backlighting. So we'll group all of those images together and we'll go through those at one point, and then we'll do the regular images. And we do have a new evaluator tonight, new to our club, and she's going to have a little bit of a different style. So I thought I'd point that out to everyone. Her name is Jaclyn Brown. Bob's going to give you all of her credentials in a little bit, but Jaclyn likes it to be more interactive. So as she goes through the pictures, she may be asking questions of the artist. So just be ready with your finger on the microphone button in case Jaclyn asks you a question, and turn your microphone on. We'll have a little bit of back and forth. So that should make things a little more interesting tonight. I did hear that we have 74 images. So sit back and relax. We may be here for a little while. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our president, Bob Scammerhorn, who is going to go over just a little bit of club announcements, club business, and we will get things rolling. So Bob, take it away.
Thanks, Karen. Welcome everyone to the May Camera Club of Richmond meeting. Just a couple things on what the board has been working on. We're working towards a hybrid style meeting. Probably in a few months out. There'll be plenty of announcements once we solidify and have agreement that it's safe to be together again in person. Hopefully most of you are, and everybody really is getting vaccinated to help both protect yourself and others. And that will help us with our gathering and safety as well. We're working with the church on installing some hardware there to take care of some of the needs that we'll have as far as bandwidth and stuff like that to broadcast the meetings, and as well as have them in person at the same time. So those of you who have joined us and are not just in a short distance, or maybe you're out of town on a weekend, you can still see the club meeting. So that'll be a great benefit to everybody. And just kind of as a reminder too, we had come up, make sure, if you're considering entering evaluations, that you have your entries in on time, just out of fairness for everybody to meet the deadlines that are put out well in advance. You do not have to wait till 11:59 the Saturday before the meeting to beat the midnight deadline. You're welcome to do that even a week in advance or 10 days. It doesn't have to be the last day, the last minute, just so you know that. But we sometimes do kind of, we do need to make, kind of a hard deadline, stop. That's what's published, just because out of fairness to everybody and fairness to our volunteers who work so hard to gather all this information together. There is a lot of work involved in coordinating and getting all that information and all the files together. So out of respect for them as well. Other than that, I know, let's see, we got a couple other announcements. Jay, you want to tap in, unmute, and have some announcements about exhibits.
Thank you, Bob. Early last week, you should have received an email from the club inviting you to give us an idea whether you wish to participate in several of the exhibitions or exhibits that we're going to have in the fall, or starting in July. Montpelier, and then we have 2 opportunities in VCU, and then Tuckahoe Library. So many of you have responded, and we very much appreciate that. But if you haven't responded to that email and the survey is very important, you have until Saturday to do so. So please do that so that we can get some idea about what the interest is, and we can work in terms of trying to get everyone involved in these opportunities to show our work to the good folks of Richmond. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jay. And also want to welcome any, if we have new members in at this meeting that you've never joined before or just coming in recently, if you've been visiting our meeting as a guest, please consider joining. There is information in the newsletter as well as on our website. You can actually sign up and pay your dues directly online as well, straight off our website. And just want to welcome those people. Are there any other announcements from board members or representatives to the good of membership? All right. Well, with that moment of silence there, then we will move forward with Jaclyn Brown, our new evaluator. Bob, would you like to introduce her?
Sure. I'd like to introduce Jaclyn Brown. It's my honor to have Jaclyn do an evaluation for us today. Jaclyn is the studio school instructor for photography at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. In addition, Jaclyn supports the exhibit lighting department for special exhibits at the museum. She's also a commercial and fine arts photographer, has a BFA in photography and film from VCU, and a Master's of Fine Arts in Photography from the University of Hartford. I will turn over the meeting to Jaclyn now, and she can give you a little more background and let you know some of the things that she is doing for the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, and we should be able to have a really good evaluation today. Jaclyn, please take it over.
Thank you, Bob. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you guys for inviting me. This is really exciting. And I looked at your photographs the other day and I was very impressed. So I'm excited to talk with you guys about the I think maybe Karen said earlier, viewers, it seems like in the past, I like to kind of talk with the artists about the work and ask questions. So it'll be a little bit different, but.
Jaclyn, you're kind of dropping out a bit, at least to me. Yeah. So if you want to do that, this is my.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah.
But do you want me then to say the person's name when the picture comes up so that you can talk to them, or wait, or how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, so if you could just share the screen, and then I'll just say next after the picture is up.
But
oh yeah, what?
But if you wanted to talk, you said you wanted to talk to the person that took the photos. Do you want me, when I say the title of the photo, to say the person's name, or our usual method is wait till after the evaluation is complete on that photo to say the person's name?
I don't know anyone, so yeah, if you want to say the person's name, and then they can unmute themselves if I have a question about the work.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Whatever you want.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. So yeah, I teach photography at the VMFA. I am teaching a basic digital course for beginners, and I teach an intermediate course as well. So if you guys most of you guys aren't beginners. If you know someone that might be interested, send them my way. I also am a wedding photographer and portrait photographer. So this is my business, Jaclyn Elizabeth Photography. And so I do weddings, as you can see. And portraits. Let's see. I've been away for a week shooting landscapes and portraits in Las Vegas and Utah. So my computer's, I think, messing up because I haven't used it in a week or something. But anyways, yes, so I shoot portraits. Lighting is something that I'm really passionate about. So it was very exciting that you guys invited me to talk about or to review backlighting as the subject of the week. I'm also, a fine art photographer. So these are just kind of personal projects on this other website. I'm really passionate about photo books. I love making photo books. I love collecting photo books, looking at photo books. So kind of blindness, a kind of sight. Exhibition that I had, a solo exhibition in 2019 at Sediment Gallery. And there's photos on this website if you want to see my personal work. So, and I think that's it. Yes. If you want to start the review process, I am happy.
Hey, cut in for 1 second, Jaclyn.
Sure, yeah.
Hey, Mike, before we start, Jaclyn, you had a little token that you showed us today. Now would be a good time to show it to Carol, and then you can go into the presentation.
Okay.
Should have a moment or two to do this.
So a friend of mine gave me the coin a couple years ago, and it's a Camera Club of Richmond award coin. And on the back is inscribed, it says third high score in color, 86 points, Larry Kritzer, 1978. So I don't know if anyone knows who Larry is, Larry Kritzer, but I thought that was pretty cool. I was showing Bob and Karen earlier.
A little bit of history, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mark Bear has been around for a while, and I know Carol Hageman has been around. Were you guys here in 78?
Yes, and I'm very familiar with those awards and medals that we gave back then. They were great.
Ah,
And with
okay.
it being preserved on the back with the name and the title and the score, it's a great history keeper.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really neat. And we've had a suggestion. Let's just try it tonight. If our members could turn off their videos, let's see if we can improve the bandwidth and maybe some of the audio. We're having a little bit of a hiccup in some of the audio. So if you don't mind, turn those cameras off for right now, unless, she asks you a question, and then you can turn your camera and your microphone back on, and we'll see your smiling face on the screen. But let's give that a shot and see if it improves things. All right, Michael, I think we're ready to share.
Okay. All right, then, if we're ready to go, as a reminder to everyone, we'll start with the assigned subject for the month, which of course is backlighting, and I'll go in alphabetical order. So the first image, which everyone hopefully is now seeing, is A Day at the Aquarium by Wally Pendleton.
Nice.
Now,
yeah, I love the framing here is really nice. I love the vibrant colors from the kind of magenta shirt on the right-hand side, and the fish in the tank, and the blueness of the water. That's really exciting. I think the backlighting is working really well here. We don't need to see any of these people because they are looking out towards the fish tank. We are looking in that direction. And we don't, it's the photo isn't about these people. It's about this kind of experience. So I think, yeah, you framed it really well. I am kind of curious, like, if I'm looking at the fish, it's a slightly slower shutter speed. So I'm kind of wondering if I assume that you handheld this photograph. It'd be kind of nice if it was maybe taken on a tripod for just to get a little bit more, maybe a ISO 100 or something like that, like less noise in the picture. But I think this is a beautiful image. So yeah.
Okay. The next image is Andalusia Fire by Patricia Mumford.
Wow. Nice job. I don't know if this is like, if you have made like a bracketing photograph like in Lightroom or Photoshop, but I like that you've exposed for the highlights here, and then because of the backlighting, everything falls into pretty much silhouette. I like that there's a little bit of definition though, and that it's not complete silhouette, that we can see some slight tonalities in the people's clothing. I think the composition is great. I'm kind of curious how this was taken. It looks like a long telephoto lens from kind of maybe a similar vantage point. And I like seeing that little bit of information in the bottom left-hand corner of the picture. I think that's really nice with the highlights and the grass. I can't really tell, but the color is really stunning too. Nice job.
Okay. Antique Afterglow by Karen Davis.
I think that I think this is a really interesting silhouette. I think you have some problems happening in the shadows. It looks a little pixelated, and it looks like maybe that you were editing a JPEG, because there's some kind of really harsh transitions between the light and the shadows. So I think if you were to maybe kind of lightly edit this as a raw file, you would have like an easier time with this editing. But I can see a little bit of color noise too, surrounding the kind of candelabra happening. So it's a little bit minimalistic. I have kind of a minimalistic style, but it might be a little too minimalistic. So.
Okay. Around Earth by Leo Vainberg.
I saw this. I saw this yesterday when I was looking at the pictures, and I don't know like how this was made exactly. Like, it almost looks like it looks very filtered. And I don't know if that's the effect that this person wanted or not. It looks like it's not trying to be a photograph, in my opinion. It looks like it's trying to be digital art. And I'm just curious. I don't know who made this picture.
Leo Vainberg.
I'm here.
Leo.
Yes, I'm here.
Were were you trying to make it more of a digital art piece or more of a photograph?
Definitely photograph.
Okay. And can you talk about more technical process here in post-production?
Sure. It's kind of the selective color here. I removed the color, which was very little of color on the background. It was well lit, and there was a sunny day behind this glass screen, if you can say that's a glass screen. So it almost was colorless. The only color was on that globe, which has its own light source. Of course, it's kind of a TV monitor of a spherical shape. I was really interested to see a reaction of the people who toured around this globe. There's an installation which allows you to make the circle around this Earth model. So that was I was trying to depict, and
I think that this is a very interesting. Sorry, I thought this is a very interesting subject matter, but I don't see much. If you're interested in the people's expression, I can't really see it, you know.
Not really expression. I just wanted to depict that people are around the making a tour. Yeah. They looking into this. Of course, the distance was too great from the camera to that people to show their facial expression, but there are distinct silhouettes, of course. Right. So that was the purpose of this shot.
Right.
And the installation itself.
You should look at.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you should look at Michael Schmidt. He's a German photographer, and Andreas Gursky. Andreas Gursky might be a little bit better of a reference for you. Yeah, look at Andreas Gursky. I just see like this very formal aesthetic here in the framing and the cropping, and I really like that. And I like this kind of wider shot with the people, just such a small in comparison to the Earth. I think that's really interesting. So look at Andreas Gursky.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next image is Assateague Sunrise by Carol Hageman.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I remember seeing this one. Okay. Look. You have a bit of color noise happening in especially the top portion of the photograph. You can see kind of the purples and greens kind of happening, at least from I can see a bit of that. I think this is a great use of backlighting. I like seeing the birds in the water and in the sky, and I like that it's the sun is coming through the clouds, and you have some beautiful kind of warm orange kind of light, and in contrast to the blue of the sky. I think that looks really nice. The framing is good too. I don't know if I said that. Thank you.
Okay. Bee on Flower by Paul Bickford.
This is really beautiful. I have a.
You kind of dropped out there.
Is Paul there?
I'm here. Hello?
Yeah,
Hey, yeah, I'm just curious, did you use any dodging or burning on the bee and the flower?
Raised a lot of the shadows
Yeah.
and suppressed a lot of the highlights.
Okay. I think that, yeah, you are really good at editing and you know,
Oh, thanks.
yeah, sure. You know what you're doing here. I think that I like that the background goes a little bit flat and the bee has more contrast. And that little stem of, I don't know if it's violet or whatever flower that is.
I looked up the flower. I tried to look up the flower so I could put it in the title. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, gotcha. But I like that the bee and the flower really comes off the background. I think your lens choice was smart. I like that it goes very flat. There's nothing that is really distracting me. And I love that in this case, the backlighting here is creating that nice halo effect around all of the flowers. So I think it is kind of working in this angelic way. I might boost the greens and the purples just a little bit more in Lightroom or Photoshop, but I think it's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
okay. The next image is Cacti Defense by Susan Van Manen.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Man, I get this. I don't know if, what your influences are. Is the artist on the call?
Yes, I am.
Whose work do you look at?
Everybody else is in the camera club. I don't really study anybody.
Okay, well, I think you should look at Edward Weston.
Okay.
Maybe Robert Adams. Some of those kind of older black and white photographers who were photographing the West. It just reminds me of the American West. And I love the backlighting here. Usually I'm not a fan of vignettes in a photograph, but I think it really is working here to help our eye kind of direct us to this cactus in the center of the frame. I love that even the focus goes really deep into the background. I'm curious what f-stop you used for this picture. Do you remember?
I honestly don't remember. And this photo was purely an accident. I was in Phoenix at the Botanical Garden and it was very, very hot. And I was looking for shade and I was going towards the shade and I just turned around and saw it. So it wasn't anything I was really looking for. I was just trying to get out of the sun.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I think it's really nice. I think you could do a little bit more with the color. I think if you warmed it up just a little bit, it would help give it some, just a more inviting kind of presence. And yeah, I think warming it up honestly would do a lot for it. So,
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next image is Cowboy at Sunset by Ed Hageman.
Cool. Print and his photographs of the American West and a lot of the 1970s and 80s Nat Geo photographers. They were photographing they were also photographing the Marlboro campaign that was happening at that time. Also, I'm thinking of some of the work in the West that I've been seeing lately. Trying to think of the the one that I was looking at the other day. What is her name? Can't think of that photographer. Anyways, if I think of it, I'll let you know. But I'm curious, like there seems to be some very sharp contrast happening between the subject matter in the foreground and middle ground and then the sky. I'm curious how you made this, if the person is on the call.
Carol, is that on?
No, he's not here. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
All right.
Yeah, it just seems like it looks very much cut out. And I'm curious what their process was in Photoshop, but we will move on.
Okay. The next one is Dawn's Early Light by Ted Gerkuda.
Wow, that gradient of color is amazing. That's really impressive. I'm kind of jealous of the like rainbow effect that's happening in the background. I think that's cool. And usually, yeah, I don't know. I love seeing, like you would think that the subject would be kind of flat in front of the camera, but this bridge, this dock that's kind of coming out from the right-hand side of the frame and kind of extending into the background at an angle is actually really working. And it's, it's not very typical, but I think it's really beautiful. I love like the just faintness of the fishing poles. So there's lots of beautiful, very specific detail in this. I might get rid of the guy taking, so the guy taking the picture in the upper right-hand corner, his shirt goes a little bit blue around his shoulders and around his like cuffs. So I might just kind of burn that information in to make it totally a silhouette. But other than that, I think this is amazing.
Day is Done by John Schickler.
Wow. This is interesting. I think the ocean is so reflective here in this picture, like it becomes its own texture. And I don't know if I like that or not. But if that is like what the photographer was intending, is they were trying to draw the most amount of texture out of the ocean, then they've done it. It almost becomes rock-like. It reminds me of a rock. I love the color here. I think that's pretty amazing. It does look pushed just a little bit too much. It just looks a little bit too crunchy. If you look around the boat, there's some like noise, some artifacts that are kind of happening, but I would be curious to see if you just rolled back the texture and the contrast a little bit. I think it could help the picture.
Okay. Each Other's Back by Sashi Iyer.
I think this is a interesting kind of quieter photograph. I like that the sun is going down and the color is kind of fading with the sun going down. And I think that adds to the atmosphere of this picture. I like being able to see just that little bit of tonality within the boat to give it a little bit more dimension. It is very straight on. I don't know how I feel about that. I personally take a lot of center compositions, but they can just get a little old after a period of time. So yeah, I'd be curious. I feel like this photograph kind of sets you up for a narrative, and I'd be curious to see the other pictures in that series. Thank you.
Okay. The End of Fall by Terry Troxell.
I think this is a similar backlighting situation that was happening in the photograph of the bee and the flower. You have this kind of very fine white outline because of the backlighting in this picture. Something that I really love about backlighting is just the color that you're able to capture, because the light is going through something translucent or something opaque, and you're able to have this new kind of experience. So I think the color is beautiful. I like the backlighting here for sure. There's good contrast. I would be curious to see like a wider photograph though, to see kind of more of the scene. That would be my only critique.
Okay. Evening Flight by Phillip Schneider.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I like the lens that you're using. It's nice and sharp. You're using a correct shutter speed for this. The backlighting is working very, very well. It kind of reminds me of like Japanese scroll work or Korean scroll work. That because of the backlighting and also because of the kind of lack of color or the muted color, and also the framing, the composition, it has this kind of elegance and simplicity. I would look at some Japanese photographers. There's a photo book that this person should look at called Ravens. And it's a very popular photo book. If you just look up Ravens by, I think it's, trying to think of the photographer's name. He's a Japanese photographer, and Aperture published the work. So you could definitely find it on Aperture's website.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. The next one is Glowing Maypie by Laura Davenport.
Cool. I love backlighting trees. I think that this is a really effective image. I like the composition. You guys are a fan of these kind of wider panoramic almost looking shots, which I typically don't do, but I think a lot of these pictures are really working. I would be curious to see if you can pull those highlights back anymore. If you look kind of in the center of the frame, there's just that little patch that's a little distracting. If you have not done HDR, I might look into doing that in the future to help kind of retain those highlights and shadows. But otherwise, I think the tonality looks good. The composition looks good. I like the f-stop that you're using, that you can really see deep into the background. I think the right-hand corner of the frame, the upper right-hand corner, is really interesting. Like I can kind of imagine myself walking through that scene. So yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Okay. Good Morning Yorktown by Joe Ring.
Yes, this is beautiful. This is inspiring to me. I think the color is banging. I love the yellow and oranges that are happening here. The contrast is pretty wonderful, but I love that you're able to see the tonality and subtlety where the sun is coming over the rocks there. I think that's really important that that stays natural and true, and that the rest of the frame goes black, where you know you're seeing less. You're seeing less detail. I can make out that sign. That's actually interesting. No fishing, keep off rocks. So I kind of like seeing that slight detail there. And then also in the kind of horizon, I like that other dimension of the landscape. This is beautiful. Thank you.
Hello by Linda Fern Schmiel.
Wow. So obviously it was taken at a zoo. I don't care for the framing. I would like to see more of the monkey. Maybe the upper hand would be nice to see. And I love this kind of moment that you've captured. I think you've chosen the right shutter speed and the right aperture. I like the blueness of the sky kind of coming through in the monkey's eyes. Love the little whiskers, all of the little detail there. The coloration and lighting on the fur is very beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Highways and Byways by Mark Best.
Interesting. A little bit of abstraction. So I assume this is just a leaf, but I don't know. I think the backlighting makes it otherworldly along with the abstraction. So I think that's really cool. I like the color and contrast. I want to hear whose image this is and what this actually is. What did they do?
It actually is a backlit leaf.
Okay.
And I just thought it was interesting the way the main arteries of the leaf are sort of like straight highways, and then I've got all these little branches coming off of it, like they're little side roads and everything.
Yeah. Is this artificially lit from the behind, or is this naturally lit?
It's naturally lit. Sun was behind it.
Yeah. And what lens did you use? Did you use like a macro lens, or is this a crop?
No, I used a Nikon P510 super zoom camera.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I think it is working well. I might just dodge those corners just a little bit more, just to get some slight more information in those shadows, but I think this is really nice otherwise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Kissed by the Sun by Ann Fulcher.
Yes. I'm jealous of this. I don't even know how you get a moment like this. I think the backlighting is very beautiful. The time of day is also helping this very sweet kind of moment. I like the aperture that you're using. All of the important parts of the picture are in focus. There's even a spider web on the right-hand side of the frame. I think that is so cool, how it's being lit by the sun. I think there's some nice bokeh that's happening because of the reflection on the grass behind the bear. Yeah, this is great.
Lee Monument by Dave Johnson.
Yes. Something that I photographed a lot. I think the backlighting is nice. And I like that there's just a little bit of color left in the sky, just that brief last bit of sunset that's happening. I will say that there is I find something's not quite right with your editing. And I'm not sure what it exactly is. I think that you're trying to save those blacks, like you're taking the slider up a little bit and not hitting true black. I'm not sure if that's the problem or not, but your blacks look very flat. And so I would just, if you're trying to achieve more range and tonality, I would just push your shadow slider, if you're editing in Lightroom, all the way to the right, and then take your black slider to the left until you hit that true black point. So yeah, and I can see there's some dust sensor. So clean your sensor. If you, see in the sky, there's a little bit of dust.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Long Way to Go by Ling Whitworth.
Nice. Very cool. I'm jealous of the lens that you own. I don't know what lens this was, but it looks like an amazing telephoto lens that you're using. Really wonderful moment. I might like to see a little bit more of the bike. If you have more of that information, either in the original picture or just slightly frame a little bit differently. But yeah, I get a lot of emotion and intensity from his face. I like seeing the street and his glasses. Yeah, and I like the aperture that you're using. I think you can bump up the color just a little bit more. I want those blues to kind of come out of his shirt. Yeah.
Okay. Mill Pond Morning by Kurt Engelman.
Wow, very beautiful. It looks like you're using HDR. I think that the backlighting is effective here. You have some nice contrast. And I love those sun rays that are coming through on the left-hand side of the frame. Beautiful clouds. I would be curious to see what this would look like with a slower shutter speed. Can I ask whoever's photograph this is, do you experiment with slower shutter speeds and landscapes and water?
Yeah, I do like landscapes, and water is kind of my preferred thing to shoot, I guess.
Cool, yeah. Do you shoot with filters, like a ND filter?
Usually I have a UV filter on my camera. I have a polarizing filter that I've used in the past and a neutral density filter, but those are kind of the only ones.
Yeah. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, but I heard that you have a UV filter, and then I think you said you have a ND filter.
Sorry, UV, polarizing, and neutral density.
Okay, cool. What did you use for this photograph? All three?
No, I think I just had the UV filter on for this one.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I think this is really great. I encourage you to keep doing landscapes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is Nandina in Tears by Billy Sinclair.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think the backlighting is working to see those kind of highlights coming through the ice. And I like how kind of muted the background is and a little bit flat, so that we can focus our attention on the foreground. I like that it's kind of coming out of the top right side of the frame, kind of dripping into the frame itself. Yeah, nice job.
The next one is Nandina by Don Hanna.
Wow, those are like my two favorite colors together. And I love the subtlety that is happening in the color. All of the different greens, all of the different oranges and yellows. Yeah, and the backlighting is creating this very subtle dimension, mostly on the bottoms of the stems and leaves, and I think it's nice. And I can see, I appreciate that in the kind of upper, towards the left-hand side of the upper frame, you have those blue kind of, I guess, bokeh in the background. That I'm glad that it's not basically just one flat pane of green, that we have some blue in the background, and that my eye kind of goes there and not just kind of stays looking at the leaves. So thank you.
One more minute, Mom. Marianne Barnhart.
Interesting. I feel like this, yeah, there's a narrative to this picture, and I want to know more. There's a lot of mystery, I think, because of the silhouette and because of the black and white. I do think that I like the mystery that's happening, and I like the kind of darker effect of the picture. I do think that it's just a little too heavy on the contrast. I think that you in the background kind of the photograph, there's a little bit of detail, but not enough for what is happening or where we are located. So in that case, if we can't tell what is happening or where we're located, I would just either rather it be completely black or have more detail. I think it's kind of in the middle ground there, but I think the foreground looks great. I love the silhouette of the person fishing, and just a little bit of highlights that are kind of thrown through the grass there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Pelican's Turn by Parks Roundtree.
Nice. Wow. I love your use of aperture. I think that's really smart. It would be interesting to see all of those birds in focus, but I love how you're using your aperture to direct us to look at these pelicans. I think that's really smart. And I like that the birds become almost pattern-like in the repetition and their silhouette. I think that's really beautiful. I love the use of color here. There is color, even though it's very subtle, and your composition is effective. My eye is kind of dancing around the frame. So yeah, nice use of backlighting. I like how the water becomes, our source of light in the picture, and because it's reflecting all of this light back onto our subjects. Nice job.
Shore Walking, Ken Stevens.
Beautiful light. I think this is a great subject for backlighting. Man, those colors are amazing. I love the flatness that is happening of the water and the sky. Yeah, it's very inviting. I will say, I think that around the subject in the water, there's just a little bit, I think it looks to me like it's chromatic aberration where the subject is silhouetted and then you have those highlights. So I think you could actually correct in Lightroom or Photoshop, and it's happening in the highlights of the water. Yeah, if I'm looking towards kind of where the water is ending in those little specular highlights, you'll see that kind of like edge of like reddish orange around those highlights, and you can kind of eliminate those actually if you take it into Lightroom or Photoshop. Yeah, nice job.
Spiked Dreams by Perry Matthews.
Interesting. Wow. This almost looks more like an illustration in some ways, just because it looks very graphic, and because it's also in black and white. But I know it's not illustration because I can see the bokeh in the background. So that is kind of very interesting that it becomes very graphic looking. It almost looks like an X-ray, like you've made an X-ray of the scene. Yeah, I would be curious to see some of your other pictures to see if they're similar or not. But there's this really interesting effect happening.
Okay. Star Power by Jay Denny.
I saw this, I was looking at this picture yesterday and I kind of love it, but I also don't quite understand it. And that's why I kind of love it. I don't know if this is a serving tray or I don't know what this is. This is like a bottom of a glass or something. But I'm disoriented, and I love that. I love that I have to work to figure out what is being, what I'm actually looking at. I love the rainbow. I think the lighting through whatever we're looking at is really interesting. The starburst effect is really cool. And yeah, I'm really intrigued. So nice job.
Thank you. It's the bottom of my wife says it's a Waterford base. I'm not sure about that, but I started doing something a month or so ago, shooting 20 pictures a day. So I was just sort of looking for things to do. So I thought, the sun's coming in, it's great, and boom, here it is.
Yeah, nice job. I want to see. I want you to do more kind of abstract stuff like this because I think this is really effective. So nice job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Sun Kitty by Anita Storino.
This is great. Wow, those eyes are so intense. I love the backlighting kind of coming through the back of the cat's ear, framing the subject. I think the composition is really nice. I like the effect that's happening in the background, that kind of green. Maybe it looks like a screen door or something like that. I do think the bottom right-hand side of the frame is distracting. I don't know if you have any other pictures very similar to this, but I would love to see maybe a different frame, or you could just crop the photo just a little bit different. You could crop it on the cat's nose and just choose kind of the left-hand side of the frame. So it's just the half of the cat's nose, the eye, one eye, and then the ear, and then the background. I think that might be a kind of interesting picture.
Okay. Sunday morning coming down, Bruce Murph.
I am interested in what the mood that the photographer was trying to create here. Is it the
Excuse me,
person?
that is mine. That's just son. And I'm Gary Cornfield, but that's my photograph. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Okay. Probably the spreadsheet sorted different than, okay, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
Gary, can you talk to me about your picture?
Yeah, I work at the airport very early in the morning, starting at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I walk around with a camera. I
Right.
looked up and I saw that and I just grabbed it.
And you were just kind of responding to kind of the haze in the sky and then the light coming through, basically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And it seemed, and this is going to sound wrong, but it was a mellow kind of intensity that grabbed me and I just snapped it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really nice. You know, it's a different tone than a lot of the pictures that we're seeing today, but I appreciate, you know, that difference. I like that there's a little bit of information in the bottom of the screen, so we get a little bit more context of where we are. I think it could be framed just a little bit better. You're cutting off the top of the light post, the top left-hand corner, but I like the mood that you're working towards. And I'd be curious to see more pictures from this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to turn something on until I get through these sun ones. There's a few of those since the spreadsheet apparently sorted differently than the computer is. Okay, here you go. This is Sunday morning coming down.
Okay, gotcha. Well, this person seems like they are very much interested in creating a fiction and not reality. They're interested in making a creation kind of far from what the camera is capturing. Vibrant mood. I like the graphic nature of it. I am curious if this person, like how this person sees this picture, basically. What were they trying to, what kind of mood were you trying to go for? What were you trying to accomplish here? Is the person on?
No, Bruce doesn't do Zoom.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Well, we can move on.
Okay, I think we're past the weirdness now. So this should be Sunrise Flight. Yeah, by Harold Hanna.
Like, okay. Wow. Excellent use of backlighting. I like that the balloon is covering up the majority of the sun. I think that can be really effective in backlighting. And I love that there's, you know, information in the shadow still, that we can see the text on the balloon. That the bottom of the balloon, that material that's being illuminated is absolutely amazing. The bottom of the balloon basket, there's this little bit of haze kind of coming up from the ground, and we can see that haze on the ground. So that is really amazing, and it's adding more visual interest to the frame. I'm curious why the photographer chose a square. Is the person on the call?
Yeah, I'm on. That's just the way I cropped it.
But what was the reasoning?
I just didn't want too much sky in there.
Okay.
I probably could have
there was
stretched
more
it out to the left a little bit and had it shifted more to the right. This was actually taken from another balloon, not the ground.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I like that, I like that there's not as much sky in this picture. But I think, yeah, the square is a little too boring for this picture. I think this is such a great picture that it needs a little bit more interest to me, either on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the frame. But if this was a vertical picture, then I think it was smart to kind of get rid of some of that information.
Yeah, I did crop out a little bit of the foreground too on the ground.
Okay.
Just wasn't necessary.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to see that one, that version. Thank you.
Okay. Sunset Tulips by Michael Orr.
Wow. I love the color that is happening in this picture. I think you could have easily warmed it up too much, but I appreciate your restraint. I like that the shadows are actually a little cool, like they naturally would be in life. I think this is, beautiful backlighting. I love the tulip that is in the foreground that is opening up, and we're able to see that light kind of come through the petals because the other petal is kind of falling down towards the camera. I think what I would do, I like the composition as well. I think I would remove the little bits of flare that's happening in Photoshop. But other than that, I think this is amazing.
Thank you. This should be Through Rose-Colored Glass. Yes, by Carolyn Pitts.
Yes. Glass is one of my favorite things to photograph with backlight. So I naturally like this picture. The color is very beautiful. I think the vignette is distracting to me personally. So I think you could just hit the lens correction in Photoshop or Lightroom and get rid of that vignette. I don't think it was done intentionally. I think you were just, this is what you got with the lens that you had. I like the contrast and the softness that is being created also at the same time. I think those yellows can use a little bit of help. If you just select the yellows in Lightroom and just bump those up, I think that would make it pop even more.
Okay. Vivacious Vixen and Kits by Rebecca Perry.
Yes, I saw this yesterday when I was looking at the pictures. What an amazing moment. I don't know how you got this, but this is so beautiful. I think the backlighting is working so well here. It's creating this dreamy, just beautiful landscape with these foxes. I think this is a great shot. Your use of aperture is really nice. I think the lens choice is good too. I like this long telephoto lens that you're using, and I like the colors as well. I think I would be curious in Lightroom to select just the oranges and just bump up maybe just select the foxes and then just bump up the color of their fur just a little bit. But I like the softness of the background and the surroundings, so I wouldn't do anything to that. I think this is very beautiful.
So that is the end of our assigned subject submissions. So let me go over
Okay. Cool.
and get to our other submissions. And so these are now, of course, open.
Okay.
Come on, and go to So everybody should see that. And that's our first open submission, which is 2020 by Linda Fern Schmiel.
Very beautiful. I don't know how you made this. I assume some kind of brushes and filters and Photoshop. I'm not very competent with digital art. I don't know if the person who made this knows Wolfgang Jasper or his photography in Richmond. Is the person on the call?
Yes, I know Wolfgang.
Yeah. Do you know his kind of collage photographs that are similar to this?
I have seen some of his work in black and white down at, I guess, Plant Zero when he had a show. I haven't seen a whole lot of, I'm more familiar with his portraits more, but his artistic work, I've seen it a little.
Yeah.
The collages and ink drawings, maybe.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Yeah. He has some really interesting kind of digital art that he's making with photographs. So yeah, I love the technique that you're using. It's very painterly, and I think that's what you're going for. So
yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. After the Storm by Lara Davenport.
It's not showing up for some reason. Maybe in a second. Oh, here we go. Okay, got it. Very well seen image. I like the composition and how immediately we are kind of directed into the frame by this bridge, this floating dock, and our eye kind of ends at this little shed at the end of the dock. Then I kind of look at the light, the sun bursting through the clouds. So that's very beautiful. I personally do not care for the bird that's in the water. I think that's a little distracting for some reason. I think it almost looks like a mistake. I think everything looks so peaceful and calm here. I would personally get rid of the bird in the water. Yeah.
Okay. Alert by Mark Best.
Interesting. I love the lighting that's being used here. I don't know if you have a flash set up on the left-hand side of this frog or toad, or if it's some kind of artificial light that's existing in the scene, but I think it's creating this interesting shadow. And I like that the frame kind of goes very dark in the background. It's a little ominous.
It was natural light.
And I love seeing the texture of that moss. Everything is very, was it natural light?
Yes, it was natural
it's
light.
Very cold.
The thing that attracted me.
It looks very, blue.
To it was everything else was dark.
I might like. Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
A little bit. Yeah. You said it was natural light.
Yeah, it was shining through some bushes and it was just highlighting right there.
Okay. Well, it was at the middle of the day, I guess, or something similar to that.
It was probably in the afternoon.
Can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, it was probably in the afternoon.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I might just warm up the photograph a little bit because it just looks a little artificial for some reason. I think it's the color temperature and the harshness of the light.
Actually, it is warmer on my computer. He's more almost a pinkish brown color.
Okay.
on my computer.
Yeah. I might, I don't know, calibrate your monitor maybe
Yeah.
to see if you're seeing different than other people because it's very cold.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
could be this club computer too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, American Flamingo by Morgan Stanley.
Nice. Wow. I love the that we're like making contact. It feels like we're being watched or stared at. Yeah, I've never seen a flamingo photograph like this, so that's really interesting. I think the light is very beautiful, the color and the contrast. I might like to see a little bit more of the flamingo. So but in some ways it's almost like a portrait of the flamingo. It's not an animal. Like we're looking at a human. There's some kind of human interaction here because of the composition and because of the eye contact almost. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. Excuse me. Bearded Iris by Paul Bickford.
Cool. Yes. I love irises. They're beautiful. I think that the composition is very smart. I am not distracted by anything really. And I like that it's just very simple and minimal, and you know, I understand what you're going for. So I appreciate that. I see a little bit of chromatic aberration happening between the whiteness of the flowers, the flower petals in the back, and then that dark background. You see that blue line that's happening. You can just very easily correct that in Lightroom or Photoshop. And I think that would help the picture. Yeah, nice job.
Thanks. I see that they have the checkbox on Lightroom to remove chromatic aberration. I always have that checked. But yeah, that bedevils me, that whole little line, if you will.
Yeah, so I pretty much always have it checked too, but you do have to kind of work with it. There's a little eyedropper tool that's in that little box. So if you just take that eyedropper and you hover over the blue of the petal and you click on it, it's going to adjust the little sliders to correct for that specific blue in the chromatic aberration. So that's what I would recommend.
I'll look for that now. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Nice lighting too. I think this is really interesting. I love the kind of specular highlights on the water droplets. I think that's beautiful.
Thanks.
Okay. Blue Jay 1, Ladybug 0, Rebecca Perry.
Yes. I don't know how someone makes a picture like this. I'm always impressed by people's animal and bird pictures because I just, maybe I just don't have the lenses for it because they're too expensive. But wow, I just wonder how long it took to make a picture like this. Is the person on the call?
Apparently not.
No, man. I like that they are really working with the shadows in the picture. I think the tonality on the bird is really nice. It's a little noisy, so I think if you just it's not much noise at all, but I think you could just adjust the noise a little bit more and it's going to help the picture out. And then I would actually increase the highlights just a little bit because the feathers are going a little bit purple or purplish gray. And then I would take down the highlights in the curves, like the top of the, it's hard for me to explain over Zoom without video, but take the top of the curves or tone curves if you're in Lightroom, and then just pull down that top little slider down. And I think that's going to help you out. Yeah.
Okay. Breathing by Ling Whitworth.
What a perfect moment to use a fast shutter speed. Love seeing the water just dripping off his body and just kind of splashing all around him like that. I think that's beautiful. To me, on my screen, it looks like the face is a little soft. The image slowly loading or not, but I think you just missed focus a little bit. Yeah. Is it sharp on your screen?
Reasonably. It
Okay.
may be a little bit off compared to the rest of the body, but just only a touch.
Yeah, because you can see his butt is a little is sharp, but his the right arm is a little bit soft in comparison. So I think just the face is just slightly soft, but the water is absolutely amazing. I think it's a cool moment.
Okay. Color Cycles by Paul Bickford.
Interesting. I feel like this person was going for more of an abstract picture because we're only seeing, you know, what the person was interested in is this color that's happening. And I like the kind of repetition of the tires in the bottom and the pattern that's creating. But for me, I kind of would like to see the tops of the handlebars. I think that would make the picture a little bit more complete. I don't think it's necessary to make a crop like that.
Okay. Eternal Rest by Gary Kornfeld.
Wow. I love the power in all of those kind of white tombstones. I think it's very impactful. Your composition is beautiful. I think your lens choice was smart. I want to see a little bit more color in this picture personally. To me, it looks like it was taken maybe in the early morning.
It was early morning and the fog was lifting. And
Okay.
What my idea was that the fog creates the more muted effect. And I found that just to be so, for me, very what it was supposed to be. But everybody can think what they want, I guess.
Right. It's your picture, so you can do whatever you want. I think that we would still get the effect that you wanted if you bumped up the color just a little bit, or maybe even just the oranges, so we can kind of experience that time of day a little bit better in the picture that you were experiencing in person. And I like generally the softness of the image, but I think it becomes a little distracting where the tree is. So I think you should push your black point down to the left if you're using Lightroom. So just take your black slider and move it to the left just a little bit so that we have that really, we have a nice crisp black in the picture, because I don't think there's really any black in the picture. There's just kind of dark gray tones. And so I think if you push the black a little bit to the left, and then maybe you could pop the white just a little bit to the right, I think this picture would sing.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Evening Hibiscus by Don Hanna.
Wow. Very cool. Man, that red really makes the picture. That's pretty amazing how just that really subtle color is transforming the picture. I like that the background just goes, very flat, and that we're just staring at the flower really. But I do appreciate that slight gradation of color and warmth in the background. Nice lighting. Yeah, nice job.
Family Time, Parks Roundtree.
I assume that these are the same foxes from earlier. Yes, very cool. What an awesome moment. I love the little tongue that's sticking out, and the mother looks so sweet and nurturing, and one of the foxes is kind of looking at the other one. I think that's really cool. All of the little bits of dirt that's caked onto the fox on the left is really cool. Yeah, nice use of aperture. Beautiful moment.
Final Approach by Harold Lana.
Wow. That's amazing. I love the sharpness that we are seeing in this picture. Very cool. Nice lens choice. For some reason, I'm not really distracted with the square cropping. I think it's because the rock in the lower left-hand corner is such a kind of dark kind of anchor point as far as the form in the picture, and it's kind of directing my eye in different directions. So I'm not really as distracted with the square. As you guys can tell, I'm not a fan of the square crop, but I think it's working well here. I love, the bokeh that we're getting in the water below the, I guess this is a heron maybe. And yeah, the color is pretty amazing. Can I ask whoever's photos this is, what lens were you using and what shutter speed?
The shutter speed was 1/2000.
Okay.
The lens was a 200/600 on a Sony mirrorless.
Okay, nice. I love me some Sony. Very cool.
Okay. 5 for Dinner, Phillip Schneider.
I think this is a really sweet moment. I love the contrast in the picture and the color. I think whoever's photo this is very, they're very good at editing color and contrast. I think those whites are very beautiful. And then, the depth that we're getting in the shadows is pretty wonderful. I love your perspective that we're seeing the ducks where they're eating, that we're down in the dirt with them. I think that's really nice. Yeah, and I think your cropping is effective. It keeps us looking around the picture. We're not distracted by the background. We're only looking at the ducks, and I like that.
Flowing Sunset, Kurt Engelman.
Yes, very cool. I've been into some long exposure landscapes recently, so this is nice to look at. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a cool picture. I think the shutter speed is effective. The color is very nice. And you know, the darkness around the frame is kind of bringing us into the center, which I like. And then we're looking out towards the edges because of the actual subject matter. I think you could get a little bit more color in the sky, but I think that's the only place that I would push the color. I think everything else looks spot on.
Okay. Galapagos Gus by John Schickler.
I love this. This is very funny and very man, I just love seeing all of the lines on the tortoise and the food kind of stuck to his chin. To me, I feel like I'm looking at a picture of like an old person. Like there is a human kind of element to this picture. I think the warmth of the turtle is very nice, and how it goes from warm to cool. Yeah, it's a fun picture.
Gladstone Church, Ken Stevens.
So one of my most photographed subjects are, I guess you could say, churches or religious buildings, or religion is one of my like subjects that I tend to photograph over and over again. And I just want to challenge this person. Okay, so I like the really harsh light that's happening here. But I want to push this person to see how you can see this structure differently, look at it from different angles. I think this is a very common like looking picture. Like if I were to Google picture of a church, it might come up like this one. So I would just push you to explore different angles, explore different lighting. I want to know what you think and feel about this church. It just seems a little too generic, in my opinion.
Okay, let me try something before I go on here. That was it. Okay. No, don't do it again. All right. So somehow an annotation got into the picture. It was rather distracting. Okay, so Got the Munchies, Terry Troxel.
Wow. Wonderful moment. I think that I think the lighting is nice in the picture. We can kind of see that it's kind of backlighting. We can see the antlers glowing around the edges. And I think this is a really wonderful moment. Good use of shutter speed. I think that the moose is a little too magenta, and or maybe too saturated with color. I think for the most part, the water looks good and the background looks good, the color. But there is this magenta cast that's happening on the moose.
So the problem for people to understand is that the vibrance did it to me. If I pull back the vibrance, the moose looks like he's supposed to. Anyway, that's what I need to do. But this,
but I think if you can, yeah.
The other thing is, I obviously have the full moose, and he or she looks really, I think it's a young male, looks really nice. But the tail end of a moose isn't particularly interesting. So I'm finding when I focus on the face of the moose or, the face of an osprey, not taking the full wings in, it seems to work better. I don't know what you think about that sort of thing.
I think that, yeah, the square frame is working because, there's interest in the bottom of the frame, there's interest in the top of the frame, and the moose is looking out of the frame. So my eye is going in all different directions here. But I would be curious to see another version of this picture slightly farther back, because I think you're getting really close to the limits of how far you can crop, because I think I'm starting to see pixels.
There's extreme detail in
barely.
this, so there shouldn't be.
Just be careful how
there shouldn't be a lot
close you crop in. But I like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Grand Teton Sunrise by Ted Gerkuda.
Wow. Very cool. I love the reflection that you're getting on the water and the vibrancy of the oranges in contrast with the coolness of the sky and mountains. I think that this person tried to take away color from the water and the sky and the mountains. And I just want to encourage this person to kind of pull back a little bit on doing that. I think I like the effect that you're going for, like the coolness and really putting the focus on the trees and the reflection on the water. But I think just pulling back a little bit on that, just creating a little bit more color in those areas would be nice.
Okay. Infrared, Sashi Iyer.
Was this created with whoever's picture this is, was this created with an infrared camera, or why is this called?
No, it was done in post-processing on Lightroom. I do not have an infrared camera.
And why did you name it infrared?
Because it was an infrared effect on the Lightroom.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. I feel like this is very mysterious and kind of dark. Yeah. And also we're kind of trapped in this tunnel with the subjects, just staring at these silhouettes, and they're just figures. We can't discern really who they are. So I think that's interesting.
In fact, I wanted I wanted this to be the backlighting subject, but then I decided I had one entry there, so I just changed this to infrared.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, this was a big suit.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think this is an interesting mood, and I'd be curious to see more pictures connect with this one image. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jaclyn, just to give you a status, we're right about halfway through the images so we're at image 20 of 39 coming up. So,
great.
All right. So, Looking for a Few Good Men by Bruce Murph.
I like the lighting here. I think the cropping is strange to me. I don't understand why the photographer is cutting off the arms of this portrait and kind of cutting off some of the hair of the model. I think from above I like the catch lights in her eyes, pleasant smile. I think you can get rid of some of the kind of flyaway hairs in the background. But I like this really soft light that you're using. I think that's what you're doing really, really well. Thank you.
Lucky Strike Sunset by Dave Johnson.
Cool. Obviously, this is a very iconic Richmond scene to photograph. I like the composition. I like that it's mostly sky. There's some beautiful colors here. I can see that you're dodging and burning the Lucky Strike Tower. So that's a little bit distracting, is seeing that kind of harsh edge from your brush, it looks like, in Lightroom.
Jaclyn,
Yeah.
if I could interrupt you one second. Carol, could you please mute yourself? It's where it's kind of distracting. Thanks. Okay, go ahead, Caroline. Or Jaclyn, sorry.
Yeah, just the little bit of black edge that we're seeing on the Lucky Strike Tower is just a bit distracting. So just clean up, just use a smaller brush if you're using this in Lightroom to kind of make those really fine selections. Yeah.
Okay. On the Hills of Old Europe by Leo Weinberg. Oh, whoa, what the heck? That was definitely not on the hills. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Off you go. That was me. Off you go, Carol Hageman.
My screen's taking a second to load. 1 second. I'm still looking at a bull or a horse or something.
Yeah, that's it. That's off you go.
Gotcha. Off you go. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is a very wild shot. I don't know how you got this, obviously with a telephoto lens. Looks like you're right down in the action with the, I guess this is a rodeo. This looks very, very wild and exciting. Nice shutter speed. It looks like you are cropping too far into the frame, I think, because I see a lot of pixelation and noise happening. So I would just, even though it might not be quite as exciting with a farther back kind of picture, I would crop it so that it's a little bit farther back, and then you can use the noise reduction in Lightroom or Photoshop to fix the rest. But great shot.
Okay. Now this is On the Hills of Old Europe by Leo Weinberg.
Cool. Okay. Wonderful composition and perspective. I might have liked to see just a little bit more room in the sky, because you're just cutting off the top of that church steeple in the back left-hand corner. But other than that, honestly, you could create sky if you wanted to in Photoshop, but it's not too distracting. Love seeing the reflection in the water, all of the colors of the houses and this little town. It's a little too contrasty. We're not seeing many kind of midtones happening. You're going from kind of these brighter areas to these very dark blacks. So I would just encourage you to pull more information out of the shadows, and then pull back a little bit on your clarity, because it's a little too crunchy of a picture. But otherwise, very beautiful shot.
That was done intentionally. My original thought was to create a fairy tale, so I intentionally pushed the contrast and express the colors more to it, because it's
Well,
indeed
what does contrast have to do with fairy tale?
just the feel, to my opinion, to my sense.
Yeah.
It's a feel of the image. It feels a little bit cartoonish, maybe, because they're so rarely seen places in all Europe like that. It's essentially a fairy tale that I found it. So I wanted to express that thought. However,
I have the fairy tale look, though, going from the beautiful color and the beautiful lighting and the wonderful perspective that you have. I don't think you need, to me, it's cheapening the picture by doing the contrast a bit. And I think this is such a beautiful shot that, to me, the contrast, cheapens the picture.
all right, you have your opinion.
You know, it's, of course it's your picture, but I think that just try to play with the contrast a little bit, and just see, and put this picture next to the other one and see what you feel after you do that.
Very well, thank you.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Owl Feather Fluff by Patricia Munford.
Wow. I don't even know how you get this picture. What a cool moment. I don't know like where you were and how you got this, but I think that's really interesting.
We were on a raptor shoot, and it was amazing. I'm so happy to have gotten this shot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing shot. That orange in the eyes is so beautiful. Oh, it says my connection is unstable. Can you hear me, Patricia?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. All right, cool. I think the square is actually, it might be a square. It might be slightly, maybe it's 4:5 ratio. I can't tell, but I think the framing is nice. I like that the background has very little information. You have a lot of noise in your shadows though. So if you go into Lightroom and you just use the luminosity noise slider to bring down the noise, it's going to help the picture out a lot and make it even stronger.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Pools of Light by J. Denny.
You know, this picture is very simple, but I think it's, really interesting, the lighting that's happening here. I love how the sun is being reflected in the water, and, how the little bits of, the reflection happening on the sand kind of near the sun and the bottom of the frame. I think that's very interesting. I would be curious to see what this picture looks like underexposed, just darkening it down a little bit in Lightroom or Photoshop, and just seeing if you like the picture more or less. But I think this is really cool.
Okay. Pyromancer by Michael Orr.
Interesting. It reminds me of First Fridays in Richmond. I don't know if it is, but interesting subject matter. Looks like it was a little slow of a shutter. You can see in the hand movements. I would be curious for you to maybe it looks like you're using flash on your subject, but not enough flash. So I might,
It was rear curtain sync.
Rear curtain sync. Okay, cool. Yeah, it just looks a little underexposed or something. I like that, the subject is very crisp and there's a lot of movement happening. The fire looks great in the slow shutter speed. I think you just need a little bit more flash, and maybe you can diffuse the flash a little bit so it's a little softer. But I think it's a cool shot.
Thanks. Queen of the Roller Derby by Joe Ring.
Okay. Oh, nice. Wonderful composition. I love, the cropping here, the framing that you're doing. The shutter speed is pretty cool. I wonder how fast that shutter speed has to be to capture that that moment. I think that's really interesting. I love that the subject is looking into the frame. You're using, you're framing it well in camera. You know what to look for. I love that, the subject, we can tell where we are. We're at a Derby Girls, it looks like roller hockey game, and I think I like the sharpness. I think the color could be boosted just a little bit more, I think, and I think that would be nice. Yeah.
Saved by the Branch by Ann Fulcher.
Wow. You guys have amazing animal pictures. I wonder, what is happening in this moment? Like, is the owl falling out of the tree? Is the owl okay? And just kind of the fact that you got the owl looking at you as well in this scene is pretty crazy. I like that half of the owl's face is in shadow and the other half in this beautiful warm light. I think the aperture is working well. Yeah.
Yeah, just this is one of the great horned owlets, and it did indeed fall out of the nest, and it caught on this branch about 15 feet above the ground. So it really was kind of saved at the last minute.
Yeah.
And it fell about, I don't know, 75 feet from the top of the tree down.
Yeah.
And actually rehabbers came, took care of it, checked it out. And with the help of a tree service and a cherry picker, they put the owlet back in the nest.
Oh man, thank God. Yeah, this is a really cool moment though that you got.
Thank you.
Senorita Maybelline, Susan Van Manen.
Nice. The light is beautiful. Your aperture is beautiful. The subject is beautiful. So you have a lot of things working for you in this picture. I do see some, there's a little bit of artifact kind of happening in the background. You can see a little bit of a rainbow effect in the background. That's probably because you were editing either a JPEG or you're pushing the picture a little bit too much in Photoshop. That's when I see those kind of gradients happening. So I would encourage you to just kind of watch out for that gradient. Maybe shoot raw if you were not shooting raw already. Beautiful picture.
Okay. Singing Solo 2, Anita Storino.
Interesting. It looks like this person is trying to create almost like a watercolor effect. It almost looks like a stained glass because of the darkness of the subject and those colors that we're getting in the branches. So that's a very interesting effect. I would be curious to see it in a series. If the other work kind of looked painterly like this, or if this is just the kind of a one-off print. Yeah, you could even print this on watercolor paper. If you are printing your work, if you want to push that, yeah.
Steamy Steep, Carolyn Pitts.
Yes, I saw this yesterday. Love the condensation of the hot tea on the glass. I think that's nice. The beautiful amber color coming through. Yeah, it's nice. It makes me think of mornings, and it's very a comforting image. Yeah.
Surprise Starling by Susan Kennedy.
That's pretty amazing. It at first you think it's like it looks like a black bird when you are photographing it. I don't know. But just to see all of those really subtle color shifts happening on the feathers is pretty amazing. I wonder if you were able to see that in real life or not.
Yeah, the bird looks like that. That's its breeding coat. It looks different in the winter. In the spring, it gets those green and purple colors.
That's so beautiful. Very nice. I think you could add, I think the contrast is spot on and the color is spot on. I think you could add a little bit of sharpness to the bird's like beak and eye, either with the sharpening tool in Photoshop or in Lightroom, just to bring our attention a little bit more towards the bird's face. But very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Lonely One, Marianne Barnhart.
The Lonely One. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, tulips are beautiful. I see that you were working in this very harsh light, but it's exposed very well. So I applaud you for handling that lighting condition. I'd be curious to see if you could open up the shadows a little bit more in Photoshop or Lightroom, because you are working in such harsh lighting conditions. Could decrease the contrast so that you're still hitting black, but there's less contrast in the picture. I think that would help.
Thank you.
To Mom with Love. To Mom with Love, Karen Davis.
Nice. I think the lens that this person is using is really smart. I think it lends itself to portraiture. So good lens choice. Obviously you have, beautiful subjects staring at the camera. I will say, I think two things. Is taking away from the moment. I think it's just a little too close. And I think that you're kind of getting this vignette effect around the sides of the picture. I would maybe that's a lens effect. You can use lens calibration in Lightroom or Photoshop to get rid of that. But I really don't think you need that vignette around the picture. So should just open the picture up and it'll look brighter, more full of life if you get rid of that vignette.
Triathlon Swim, Bill Whitworth.
Wow. I feel like this could almost be the same person photographed many times and put into a composite picture because we're seeing this green cap repeated over and over again. But you can tell that it's not the same person if you look close enough, because not everyone is wearing a full wetsuit. You know, some are cropped off. There's slight changes in the color of the goggles, but I like that you have to stare at this picture to see that it's not the same person. I think it's funny that everyone is wearing this green cap over and over again. And my eye is drawn really to that first person on the left-hand side of the frame, just sticking his head out of the water. And then I kind of look over the rest of the image. I like the shutter speed that you're working with. And I think the aperture is effective. Yeah.
Truth in advertising, Billy Sinclair.
Truth in advertising. Petersburg. I have photographed this house. I have a picture of this house. I think this is near, if it's the same house, near the train track trestle. I think it's funny because you have the upscale apartment living sign next to this kind of deteriorating house. And I like the composition and the lens choice that you're using this longer lens that is kind of flattening the frame. Yeah, I think it's funny. Nice job.
Vinland, Roger O'Quinn.
My screen did not change.
Try it again.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I see it now. Okay. You said this is Finland?
Vinland with a V.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was gonna say, yeah, this is beautiful. I think I like the lens you're using, this longer lens. I'm always a fan of using telephoto lenses with landscapes. I think you create a lot of depth that way. That is kind of helpful to give it a more kind of fantasy looking element to the picture. I love how the curvature, of the earth and the vines extending into the background. The color is very nice. It might be a little too magenta, just the slightest. But the lighting is beautiful. Everything else is working well. Yeah.
We Are Your Mirror, Perry Matthews.
Okay. Is the person on the call the artist? Maybe, maybe not. I would just say I discourage all of my students from doing kind of these hybrid color and black and white pictures. And I usually when people say, I wanted to take this picture and kind of make it this way so that the focus would be on, you know, whatever is in color. I think that you can do that with your camera and how you're you know, setting up the frame and lighting the picture. You shouldn't try to do that in Photoshop too much with this extreme of a measure. I think it's fine, you know, to dodge and burn and kind of create interest that way, but I think it's a little too extreme when you're kind of doing this hybrid black and white and color. Yeah.
Wisteria, Wally Pendleton.
I love the repetition that's happening in this picture. And I do think the vignette around the frame is working. I like the lighting in the picture, that little bit of rim light that's happening on the tops of the petals. I think it's underexposed. I think you could brighten this up a little bit in Lightroom or Photoshop and make those whites pop a little bit more. But otherwise, I think this is a nice picture.
And that's it.
Okay. Cool.
Michael?
Yeah.
Did you have one called Fairy Princess?
Yeah, we could take that up offline. I sent Ed an email about that.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome, Jaclyn. Great job. Appreciate everything that you went through, and I think we all enjoyed your critiques.
Cool. I'm so glad. Thank you guys for having me. And you guys can email me if you want to after this session. My email's on both my websites. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jaclyn.
Yeah, thank you, Jaclyn.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you. Good job. Yeah, thanks everyone else too for coming out, and those who participated as well. It's always great to find some direction for our work as we go forward. And you know, thanks again, Jaclyn, for putting some time into this too. Obviously, you're well prepared. We appreciate it as well. Appreciate your comments and expertise as well. Just want to remind everyone that our next members meeting is June 9th, coming up next month. And we do have a board meeting on May 26th coming up. But other than that, if there are no other things to be shared for the good of the club, we'll adjourn the meeting for the evening. You can hang out a little bit and visit if you want to, but thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Jaclyn. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaclyn.
Good night.